And I will tell anybody, anywhere, anytime that this is what you need to know. But for today's exercise, I'm going to rip it up a little bit. Rather than 4 L's, I want you to think of your life as 4 acts. 4 acts in a play. There's Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and Act 4. Because your life, our lives, can be looked at like that. So when I think of this and when I do this, I've got a circle. You can draw a circle. It looks like that. Remember, you're going to be doing this later today, sometime tomorrow, on the weekend, sometime in the future. And you're going to think Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4. In the 4 L's theory-driven, evidence-based framework, Act 1 is about business. Act 2 is about our business. Act 3 is about leadership. And Act 4 is about... Some of those in the room say, I don't want to know about Act 4. Act 4 is the most difficult. Yes, yes, and yes. Act 2 is the most important. So, Act 1, when you learn business. Act 2, when you learn our family business. Act 3, when you learn to lead in ownership, governance, operations. And Act 4, when you learn to let go. It's the life cycle of the individual. It's a life cycle theory-based framework. Scientists are not afraid of theory. When I say theory, yes, that's us. We need to understand theory. I make it digestible. You don't skirt away from it anymore. You did 10 minutes ago before I told you were a scientist. You said, oh gosh, if he's going to talk about theory, I'm going to shut up like a bank holiday. I got better things to do. No. Embrace it. Understand, trust me, that I've actually got some background in here and it is stress tested. So having a broad knowledge of these 4 L's, you say, yep, that's what we did. I learned business. I learned our family business. I'm learning to lead or will learn to lead, then I will learn to let go. Got it. Then my question to you is, where does legacy live in this framework? Well, that's not my question to you. You were already asking it. You say, yep, got that. Next question, where does legacy live? Because we're linking these conversations, these concepts to legacy. And you're probably thinking, right, if you're in L4, Act 4, you probably say, that's where it is. I've got to work on my legacy. And that's not wrong. But it's possibly a little bit late because what happens at the end of Act 4 in a 4-act play? The curtain comes down. The curtain closes. So you're pretty close to when the curtain's closing. And it's going to close on all of us. So, for those of you who are learning to let go, yep, it's important to think about legacy. And also for those of you in L3, leadership, you're busy. You got a lot going on. And that guy wants me now to add more to what I've got going on? You're kidding me. Yes. But I've got to think about legacy because really, I've got to do it before I get over to Act 4 because the curtain's going to come down. So legacy is important. to both of those stages. But perhaps those of you who are in L3 and L4 started to think about your legacy in L2 when you learned about our family business. Because in L2, the most important act of all 4 acts is when you were required to understand the value of values. It's in Act 2 where you kept the philosophies, but not the detail, in order to continue differently. I'm going to say it again, don't worry. In Act 2, those of you who have passed Act 2, and I can see some of you definitely have, respectfully, but way back then in Act 2, when you were still with your incumbent parent, uncle, grandfather, that's when you really started to understand their legacy. Their legacy was to pass on their values.